Hey, there was a time where I was out and I would never have recommended a heat pump to anyone, any of my customers. I really truly felt that I didn't believe in them for being a good product for Canada. And a lot of the customers that actually had them, only about 10% were pretty much happy with them. The majority of other people, they really weren't getting much benefit. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what changed my mind and why I became a believer in heat pumps. So back over 2 decades ago when I got into HVAC, the only heat pumps that they had were the same type of heat pumps that they sold in California, Florida, and all those places. And they were selling them up here in Canada. And the majority of people weren't really happy with them because they were a lot more expensive than air conditioning systems. And a lot of the people promised them that they would get all these huge benefits, and they weren't really getting those massive benefits. So in order to tell this correctly, I got to go back in time. And basically, when heat pumps were around, when I first got into the industry, they didn't have the heat pumps that were out today. What they had was the old condenser type, which kind of looked like an air conditioner. And they were the same style of units that were sold in California, Florida, all of those places. So what you have to understand is in those places, they work very well. But in these harsh climates, the winter climates, they didn't really work very well. They weren't able to heat people's homes in those colder temperatures as well as what they can today. So that was a big problem, and they cost a lot more back then too as well than an air conditioner. So I just wasn't a big fan of them. What really changed my mind is the introduction to these new cold climate heat pumps. Now, they've been around for a while, but when they got introduced, I still wasn't a believer. You know, I'm going to be skeptical, of course, but after multiple installations and trying them out and realizing that yeah, they have a massive amount of benefits over the old condenser style types, I became a believer. And now, after thousands of systems being installed, I'm pretty confident that they are definitely a very, very good choice. Now, I have many videos, and some videos say why you shouldn't get one, because there are some homes out there that are very difficult and you may or may not be able to have one. But most homes have no problems installing them. And the benefits that you get compared to the old style, you had a big block outside. It was, you know, like a very squarish unit, very large. The one benefit is the size difference in a lot of the heat pumps of today, like the cold climate ones. A lot of them are side discharge. And what that means is the fan is on the side of the unit instead of on the top. And by putting the fan on the side, they're able to build these things in a much thinner dimension, so they don't stick out as much from your house, they don't take as much room. They're still about the same width, but they don't stick out as much, which is a huge benefit. And they're usually not as high as well. So that's, for space saving and everything, that's a great advantage. The other thing is, with the side discharge, they're extremely quiet systems, and I'm going to explain a little bit more of why they're quiet in a minute, but that's another huge benefit. The massive improvement to these heat pumps, these cold climate heat pumps, are the fact that they have inverter technology. And that inverter technology is basically a state-of-the-art type of circuitry and board system and operating system that makes these things super efficient and also super quiet. Now you're able to run these with DC current rather than AC current, which is a lot more affordable to run. And once again, they're quieter. And the operation has a more of a modulating type of operation compared to just an on and off, like a start and stop or a 2-stage. So these modulating compressors and fans, they go like all the time, and they could be running at a very low speed, or they can be running at a higher speed depending on the load. And that whole principle is what's going to give you a much more even comfort. But the biggest point of why I switched was going back to what I talked about in the beginning, which was the temperatures that they can operate in. The old heat pumps could only operate to about +5 degrees, maybe 0 degrees. Not many of them got beyond that. Nowadays, with the cold climate heat pumps, you can get basically minus 10 degrees Celsius, even minus 15 below in some cases. Now they do advertise a little bit more than that, but ideally when they're set up properly and everything, you're getting between minus 10 to minus 15 below. Sometimes a little bit lower, but most of the time in that range. And that's really important because most of Canadian winters, that's about 75% or more of the heating seasons. So temperatures, which means that heat pump is going to be running much more than your backup heat, such as your baseboard heating or your furnace or whatever else you have as a backup heat. So that's going to be very, very beneficial. And because these heat pumps are super efficient, they are much better to run at this point. Now, I don't want to go and tell anybody that they are going to save a lot of money in the heating season compared to running a furnace, because depending on the furnace that you have, however, what you have to understand is it's what's happening in the future, in the next 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever. The governments are really cracking down and giving a lot more incentives to people who have heat pumps, and the whole industry is going towards the whole carbon footprint thing. So anything that comes our way, reduce, any types of reduced incentives for people who have heat pumps. That's why it's going to be beneficial also to have it. And with natural gas prices always going up, eventually what I see happening is the cost of running the heat pump will be significantly lower than what it is to run a natural gas. Now, one final thing I want to leave you with is, because now we got to talk about the air conditioning season, because a heat pump is an air conditioner when it's operating in the summertime. So what benefits do you have then? Well, these are between 17 to 20 SEER. Most of them are closer to the 18 to 20 SEER ratings. And the SEER rating, it's actually SEER 2, but the SEER rating is a seasonal energy efficiency rating. And that's basically, the higher the number, the more efficient your air conditioner is. If you were to go out and buy an air conditioner that was 18 SEER or 20 SEER, and it would cost you a lot more than what a heat pump would. So, and it would take up a massive amount of space. So that's what you have to be aware of. Whereas with these heat pumps, you're already getting that maximum efficiency levels. And for the price point, is going to be really, really good. So hopefully you learned something a little bit more about heat pumps and the reasons why I decided to switch over and have the mindset that heat pumps are good. Air conditioning systems are still good. They have their place, and in some cases you may not have a choice. That's where you're going to have a person like myself or another HVAC advisor. I would definitely pick a company that has a reputation with doing very good work with heat pumps, because there's a lot of mistakes being made in this industry. So just make sure you pick someone that's good. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.